That's an interesting point. And again, just within this conversation, people ask the question, well, who gets to decide or who says that my hair is not tame or tidy or presentable? Because that can actually be quite subjective, right? If I myself do a slick back at 8 o'clock in the morning, I would never do that. But if I decide to go into the office and do a slick back, right? It's 8 o'clock in the morning, every hair is laid down, the baby hairs are laid, right? Let's say I've had a hard day. And come 3 o'clock, I have to give a presentation. And those baby hairs are no longer laid. My slick back is no longer slick. My hair is still pulled back. It
Okay.
didn't look like it did at 8 a.m. But there are some people, when they get this question or when they get this comment about what's presentable, what's tame, or what is tidy, that means something very different from someone who has straight hair as opposed to someone who has um type 4 hair. Because I could say the same thing about a braid out. My braid out is going to look very different at 3 o'clock in the morning, especially if I walked outside for lunch at 12 p.m. and it's humid. So what do you think about, I guess you could say, that pushback when it comes to, well, let's open up the code of conduct or the dress policy and your hair has to be tidy. But who is defining tidy and what does that mean?
It's a good question. It's very subjective, I
It
must say.
is.
Like you said, uh, maybe we should come back to why would you, do a slick back actually in the first place? I think
Yes.
allowing some phase around the edges, allowing the edges to be edges and not necessarily flat completely. That's maybe one way of looking at it. I don't tend to do, gel in my edges. I just tend to, always hair back, but it sort of does it so its job. It just stays back. But sometimes you will have the little baby hair doing their thing in the front, and hey, it's freedom. So I guess if you don't come into the office with the slip back, there's no expectation that's it should be, that way. Um, I I only think even again, I always try and look at, okay, what does the Caucasian woman, the white woman do, right? The only white women I know I've observed in public who do that type of very tight, slick, slick back hairstyle are hair hostesses for whatever reason, right? I don't see any of my colleagues at work, banking or any other professional environment with their hair tightly pulled back or, you know, perfectly aligned, right? We'll have straight hair, and like you said, we don't have maybe the same challenges, but you know, if there was to be a gush of wind and their hair would blow away and just be a bit fizzy, they'll just tidy it up more or less and just go into the meeting. So I think we have to allow ourselves that freedom to do that and not set expectations that we can't sustain, basically. Our own enemy in that case. Don't set expectations that your hair is going to be perfectly flat because it's not. It will come 3 o'clock in the afternoon, whether you have a presentation, whether it's been raining or not. So don't set those expectations because it's not realistic. Just let your hair do what it's going to do at 9, as what it's going to do at 3. And I would say another thing as well is if you need a touch up, do a touch up. So again, I just think of another area of beauty, makeup. When you come into the office at 8 or 9, your makeup is perfect, but by the time you get to 3, you've been sweating, you've been running around doing things. So if you have an important meeting to go into at 3 p.m., yeah, just go and do a touch of makeup, maybe touch up your hair and see if it doesn't look too bad. And that's it. So the same way you treat your face, your outfit, if you've been sweating all day, I want to have a change before you go into that meeting. You know what I mean? Like, it's just basic. I think we should just go common sense on that one. And again, there is no right or wrong, but I think we are wise enough to be able to assess and not be too extreme in our approach to these things.